sorry, different one. In a tier 2 cities like Chandigarh, where, many of the companies are moving back to the IT service, or even in pure IT form, sub 10 million or 7, 8, and 5 million. How do you do the valuation? I mean, what is the valuation? Because valuation we hear of every time in any conversation, we really don't understand the word valuation. And because IPRs are very limited, or the end customer profile is very like a kind of gray or gray. So what is the really the valuation of a company at that range, below the radar, not listed? And how do you, when you start talking to somebody, how do you tell the first figure to him, this is my value?
Valuation is in the eye of the beholder, right?
In the eye of the beholder.
But the person who is either buying or selling, they are the only two people who have, everybody else sees different values in different things, So I think that value, each one of us has value. So when I try, for somebody offered me a job, I would say, okay, I think I'm worth X, And if that person, then I would say that, but at the same time I say I'm worth X, I'm also saying that if I take this job over the next 5 years, 10 years, my expectations from this job will be a 10% increase in my salary, maybe some stock options, maybe this, maybe that. Then I say, okay, so over a 10-year period, this is what I think I will earn from this, job, Valuation is effectively that. See, you value that number as an individual, discount it for some, saying if I paid you all that money up front, instead of paying you $100,000 for 10 years, suppose I gave you $80,000 now, will you work for free for the next 9 years? And so that number is valuation. So in a corporate sense, and I've done a lot of valuations, in a corporate sense, we've got to come up with a number where we think that we are getting both what we have built up. And it's not only about IP, just like as individuals, our IP is all up here, right? So nobody says, I'm not paying you because you're not bringing any IP, The IP for a company like, a service company might be the fact that you've got systems and processes under which a certain number of people are working together, and they show up at work, they produce something. That is IP. IP is not patent. In fact, if you look at all the models of valuation, if you look at Infosys balance sheet, or financial statement, you'll see at the end they put down HR as a IP. The fact that they have a system under which they hire, they fire, they do performance management, they think has got IP. So you've got to find the IP, within that. Your training that you are doing. Because for somebody else to come and recreate what you are doing is going to take them 2, 3, 4 years. If they wanted a ready-made platform which they can now start building on, that difference is the IP. It's the avoided cost, it's the advantage that you have, that's the IP. So I would say IP should not be defined only by, some external.
But Chitra, let me take up on what Pratap said. Most industries do have anecdotal thumb rules. Give or take some. And we have that in the public markets when we say that price earnings for a well-run Indian IT company should be 19 times a bit or 20 times a bit or whatever that is. For a closely held services company, IT services company, that is closely held, what is the thumb rule of valuation? Is it 3 to 6 times a bit?
It could be.
Is it 10 times a bit?
No, the question is, then you start building up, different levels, You but then say, okay, that there are components to the value which you got to weigh, And so you can't just judge by 3 times a bit of a company. That is one element you will take, But if you look at
so I'll tell you where the market are going with that. Okay, our goal is let's say a potential acquirer or a partner, okay, and we got involved in a discussion, and the discussion was what is company X worth. You typically start off with the industry norm. Right? Now the question is, how do we as a small company that is sub 10 million start with the industry norm and create the perception of value.
Okay, discount it back.
Discount it back, and you have and go from instead 3x EBITDA to 6x EBITDA.
That's exactly what you do. You say that, look, if this was, in a different business, the same business, if it had been part of Infosys' portfolio, would be multiplied by 20 odd times.
Yes.
Right?
That is correct.
Now you will not get that because that 20 times comes from all the other things that they do. But it has got some value. So you've got to say, I will start off by saying that is my top line. It can't be above that. It is somewhere south of that. Where is that? And then I think you've got to analyze your revenues and the sources of the revenue. Those, and you've got to try to get as many of that to what I would say is the Infosys. You can say, hey, that little piece of my business is the same as Infosys. Because I have the direct client relationship, I am the sole provider of that service to that thing. That company is a Fortune 100 company, and that company has got nobody else. So if somebody coming to buy me just for that business will say, I only do this, but if I got this as a client, I've got an inside track, I could sell $100 million worth of it. For that person, that client acquisition may give you a valuation of 20. So you break your businesses up into and produce it in the best light possible.
So you can't echelon
basically a spreadsheet. And you build a quick spreadsheet based on each, and then you create the total value.
And these are not what I would call set numbers, but these are the way you say, there are aspects of my business which are worth a lot more than the others. Because the purchaser will come to you and say, I'm not really interested in that business. And if they are not going to be interested in the business which you think is of the highest value, then you've got to know. You need to know, okay, you can sell the others, but then that means let me keep this. Because I will then go and sell that separately to somebody else.
And then, from the buyer's point of view, which are the negative? When you say subtracting,
I will tell you, for most purchases, it depends whether they are operators or whether they are also in the financial business. If they are operators, then they basically want the client relationship, which is the most important aspect. And then there is a different value. If Infosys came and looked at your business, and if they were interested, they will value it at a totally different level. Because they will value it and say, you have not a healthcare customer, and we are focusing on healthcare. That is the only thing I'm interested in. The rest of the thing, the 1,500 people I can hire in a day. But there's somebody else who may come and say, hey, for me to scale to this size will take me a longer period of time, a lot of hassle. And I can start generating revenues immediately. So for me, the platform and the establishment itself is the attraction. So that's why I'm saying beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So each person will value it differently. And what you've got to understand whenever we're looking at either buying or selling a business is look at each one of those things and say which are the pieces which are more important to me. And it will not be the same for everybody. Not be the same for everybody. But I think you need to have an understanding that industry benchmarks do come. Do come. For a financial investor, if they thought that your business was good and he thinks that, look, I can build this up and treble this, then he would say that, look, my exit is going to be at the same, close to the industry multiple on a public company. So he will give you a different valuation.
Yes, that's correct.
But there is no magic number. I have seen deals done, at 5 times. I've seen deals done at 15 times.
I always say that I always come back to them. We don't have that ecosystem. You can tell somebody in Chandigarh, I want to discuss this line. Who do you go and look for? Where do you go for looking for buyers? Who do you talk to first time? Who do you go? Where do you, if you go to APMG kind of companies, like the big five, should we look for friends and relatives, or should we go to some kind of like intermediaries?
There are a lot of people who are in this business, who will prepare, who will prepare a company for sale. and the big companies are there. So your KPMG, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, all of them have groups which will come and look at your model and write an information memorandum, and then they will identify what I'm saying, how to position the company such that you go to the right purchaser and say, hey, this company has got this, and that is why it has worth that. So you can have that, that kind of valuation done by them. And there are also people who are independent, who are in this business, who have worked for some of these companies, who have gone separately, and who will also can work with you. I can connect you to all of them, people who are in that field,
Should we drop a mail?
Right?
Should we drop an email to you?
Yeah, I said, the best thing in my view would be to actually, I would say that because it seems to be an area which
There is a lot of
interest. I think you should get perhaps, if you can do it such a way that you're not tied to any one of these guys, KPMG, I already got one of them guys, if you can hold a forum, where you